Thank you for rising came up. Scott developed it as a kind of auxiliary, one of the practices in the living inquiries, not one of the main inquiries, but one of the auxiliary ones, in order to work with contraction and resistance. So we can do it with anything. If we're doing it with words, it could be, some phrase comes up, and we might just kind of say to that phrase, "Thank you for arising." When we do that, we're not looking for agreement. We're really looking to see what our response is. So when we say "Thank you for arising," we'll notice usually some kind of response. It might be, "No, I'm not thankful that's arising." Often it is. What I found is that it's a really deep practice of seeing our resistance and being able to go into the resistance. And what tends to happen when we can be present with our resistance just as it is that it starts to dissolve in a way. We begin to make friends with it, and we stop fighting against it so much. So often we have the initial layer of what it is we're resisting, and then we judge ourselves for resisting it, or we feel bad about ourselves, or we wish that would go away. Some of the wording can be a little bit different. Scott, when he originally developed it, used "Thank you for rising," "I love you," "You're welcome to stay," or "You're welcome to stay as long as you like." Some people change that to other wording that fits more for them, and feel free to do that. Someone might say, "Hello, I notice you're here." So "Thank you for arising" seems a bit much to some things. And so if some kind of other wording fits you better, then feel free to do that. So we can do it to words. We can do it with images. So if an image has come up that's somehow got some potency or that seems to trigger us, we could just thank that image for arising. And one of the reasons that it might be helpful to do that is because thoughts, words and images come up for a reason. And it might be helpful for us to see something, to know something, to remember something. Sometimes it's our protective and defense mechanisms coming up to warn us about something, and sometimes it's related to something from much earlier in life that's not actually a threat now, and it might be running in the background. And if we don't notice that it's running in the background, then our actions can be really affected by those underground kind of programs. So part of this mindfulness practice is to notice what it is that's coming up, and when there's something a little bit strong, something we feel a bit resistant to, or maybe a lot resistant to, then we can use these phrases. So "Thank you for arising," and we would say that kind of internally to ourselves. The first time I did that, I found I was, number one, I was not at all thankful. I was mad that it was there. But also it was something that I really had interpreted always as sabotage, as self-sabotage. And when I really started looking at it and to myself, I'd say, "I love you." It's like, "No, I don't." But just entertaining that possibility. "And you're welcome to stay." "No, you're not. You're ruining my life." And it was just really, I could see, number one, all of that resistance. But once I got below the resistance, I could see that in fact it was just this naive, kind of innocent part of me that was making these suggestions that thought would help me. It thought would help me feel better. And so that really ended the war within. Once I realized that it was just some part of me wanted me to feel better through this dysfunctional behavior, otherwise known as an addiction in this case. So there was something about that just, a lot of things softened when I realized that it wasn't sabotage. It was something else, and I never would have known that if I hadn't sat with it and been present with it. So when we use it on sensation, we're getting to the base of it when we're working with sensation. So there's words and images that are Velcro to sensation, and we'll often look at the words and images, and then we'll get down to the sensation just as it is. And one of the one of the benefits of working with this with sensation is the same kind of dissolving of that war within. When we can say to a sensation, thank you for arising, I love you, you're welcome to stay. Number one, there's a whole layer of resistance that might come up we can work with. And then after we've worked with that, we can sit with that sensation, and that's when we can get into noticing, is that sensation actually here to hurt me? Is it here to tell me something? What is this sensation doing here? And then as we're working with thank you for arising, I love you, you're welcome to stay, things can soften around that sensation because it doesn't feel like it's such an enemy. So to do the practice, I'll just kind of insert words as we go along, and if it's where you're at with the practice, then pay attention to the words. If it's not, if you're looking at something or deeply absorbed in feeling into a sensation or working with the I love you on it or something, kind of tune my voice out and keep on doing what you're doing. So when it's a group practice or when we're doing this together, we're not all going to be perfectly in sync. So feel free to make the practice your own.